All right. It's 8:30. We'll call the meeting to order. If we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. I don't see anybody here for that, so we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments? Any additions to the agenda? Deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 5 is our consent agenda. We have we have approval of the minutes, approval of travel requests, approval of personnel action notices, approval of cellular allowances, approval of the human services report, approval of claims, department head reports after that. So, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second. I
Motion.
have one addition. There was a travel request that I did set on your desks this morning.
Okay.
And that's taking place before the next meeting. That's why I added that one.
Okay. So that'd be item F, travel request. And claims are not included in this, by the way. Note that. Any other comments? Hearing none. Call the roll.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 6 is routine business, approval of claims. Is there a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on the claims? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Boersma,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B is our department head reports. Brian, we'll start with you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Sorry for my tardiness. May 2nd, Jeff Anderson and myself went and took a look at County Road 11 culverts, the outlet of Sinai. And with the site visit, we drove the primary areas of Lake Sinai Township, and my notes are attached. I know that there was some concern out there with Lake Sinai Township after speaking with the township supervisor. As you can see in my notes here, the areas that are of concern are outside Brookings County right-of-way. We've been keeping an eye on this structure, probably more than other areas in the county, but is there any questions on that?
Any questions from anyone? Nope.
And May 2nd, I also met with Friedel Rapalin with Old Tree Farms to discuss a manure pumping permit, be across County Road 12. Also met with Jared from KC Dairies. I know we've had a lot of dairies out there running their manure pipes through some of our culverts. I've been addressing it with them and working on getting permits set in place, so we are pumping actually through permitted pipes. I guess from what I've seen out there now, it's all kind of cleaned up, but if anybody sees anything, be sure to let me know, because one's got to be right, they all should be right in my feeling. May 2nd or May 6th, you can see there I met with Lindy Dairy. They were also running their pipe down our right-of-way and then also through our drainage pipes. Another one that has been addressed and talked to, and they are going to be submitting the proper permits. May 14th, we removed our 7-ton load limit on our hard surface roads. We did this in conjunction with our neighboring counties to try to do it all at the same time. I know it got a little later this year than everybody had hoped, but with the weather, I think it was right for our roads. May 14th, I also met with Paul Clayton and Don Bjornke, construction, a subcontractor to Wanzik, in regards to the beginning of the wind tower project up there along 27. I know we had a haul road set in place. I've seen that they were using some other areas, so I did address that with the contractor, and they're going to be addressing those roads as that project is progressing. And those contractors are hauling in material to try to stabilize those roads, but with the moisture we continue to get, they'll be watching that. But I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it. It is on our radar that that area around the power plant site we're paying pretty close attention to. But with that, May 16th, we had a pre-construction meeting for the structure just south of the power plant up there on County Road 27, and the comings of that meeting were that they were going to be starting yesterday. We had a detour route, kind of an idea in mind, but with the conditions of our gravel roads, and now working with the state in order to try to get a detour while that work is taking place is taking a little time here. But our original thought is we were going to detour some of the traffic on some of our gravels, but due to the condition of the gravel roads, that we don't want to put undue pressure on them. But like I said, meeting with the contractors of Wanzik and having a haul road already in place, we're going to try to utilize coming off of 27 off of State Highway 30. But there again, it'd be pushed off to the interstate from County Road 27 to the interstate on state or US 14 over to the interstate up to 30, and then down 27 back to the power plant. So we're working on that, but that's where that sits right now. I was out there yesterday. The contractor had the road closed down, but the work had not started, so I'm anticipating they're starting this morning. A little update, I didn't get on here, but speaking with John Ritterhouse from the South Dakota Department of Transportation in regards to our bridges south here on 77, they're at a standstill. The water's high. As we know, the south bridge has been tore out. The north bridge had some work removal started on it, but as far as that goes, it's pretty much at a standstill yet. They need the diversion built on the south bridge to get to the north bridge, and with the water being as high as it is, they're going to continue to monitor it, and hopefully we get a little reprieve from the rain.
Doesn't appear likely.
No. And with that being said, our rehabilitation structures are well underway. They're well underway with the removals. I know that I believe south on 19, they've got that open back up to 2-lane traffic until they get back to do the epoxy work. But the removal work and the concrete work has been done. Just waiting on the temperatures to be as state spec'd for them to put that material down. So there will be some temporary closures there looking forward into the future, but be a very minimal impact to traffic. And today I have a pre-construction meeting at 9:30, so if you guys are fine with it, and in case you got any other questions, I can address that now. We have our Brookings County overlay projects on County Road 27 and County Road 35, pre-construction meeting this morning.
Any questions?
I guess I had a question. The bridges on 77, they were hoping to complete those by November. What's the absolute date that they have to have them done?
The substantial completion is November 1. That means that minor work such as seeding, removal of the erosion control measures, and that could be completed after that, but the road would be open to traffic by November 1.
Okay.
That's going to be a little bit
That's going to be a push.
Tight.
That's going to be a push. I know I've been working closely with the state DOT. As of right now, there is no thought of doing a change to that. The contractor has committed to completing that work as long as Mother Nature allows. There again, that's a lot to ask for this year, but we will hopefully in the next few months get some weather where we can get him out there. I know as soon as, I was told by the John Ritter House up there with the DOT, as soon as their sheet pile is below the water grade and they can pump that out to start pouring the pilings, they're going to be starting work on that. Those measures are in place. The water's just too high for their cofferdams.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Marty, have your report next. Vicki, I'm going to save you for last, just so you know.
Good morning. Just got a few more inmates in jail, 38, which is up from, I think last week was 27, or we were in the 20s. And actually, the state's attorney hasn't started doing his sentencing yet, so this could increase. A lot of our increase right now is arrests that the between my agency and other law enforcement agencies have brought in. Drugs just continue to be an everyday affair. Just for instance, yesterday, one of my deputies went on a dog call and ended up making a methamphetamine arrest out of the dog call. So it continues. We had a Saturday morning incident in the northwest part of the county where a resident called in a vehicle that was stuck on a gravel road and a gun out the window and so forth. And when the deputy got there, the person wouldn't comply, and so they called in Highway Patrol and Kingsbury County deputy. Eventually, the person did comply and got out of the vehicle, but that was drug-related also. Was arrested. We also had felony warrants, but those incidents are starting to get common in a way, and the main thing is that nobody gets hurt, and it was resolved, and all law enforcement did a good job at that. On my report on this that I give you, I know there's a lot of stuff in here, and you just have to look at it and what you want to look at and what you don't want to look at. But on the last page, I've never really talked about the last page, and this is the school resource officer. When he's in the 3 schools, and he's in Volga, Elkton, and White, and when he makes contacts with a student at the school for some, and it can be something minor too. It could be just that he sits down and discusses bullying with them. You know, the teacher comes and says, "I got a bullying problem with these 2." He may just sit down with them. I hope by the end this summer that I have a more detailed report of what he's done in the schools, because I want to present that to the superintendents also. But if you look at that, all the schools are pretty close. In Volga, there was 58 contacts with students. In Elkton, it was 52 contacts, and White, 57. So he had 160. So far this school year, he's had 167 contacts with a student for some reason. It might be minor, and it might be something that vaping is. You may charge the child or the student with vaping. That seems to be an issue. Assaults, truancy is and I think the state's attorney could attest to that. A lot of truancy citations. Students that the magic number is 14. They miss 14 days. They turn it over to law enforcement to investigate, and that's what. So just so that, and what's good about, I hesitated putting a school resource officer in because it takes another guy off the street. But if he wasn't there, I'd have a field deputy doing a lot of this stuff, and then I wouldn't have anybody on the street. And sometimes the school does have the officer do some things that probably if he wasn't there, they might not have called law enforcement either. But he's there to start from the beginning and maybe head off something. Bullying and over social media is a big thing, trying to get that handled and so it doesn't lead into a juvenile petition or something like that. So I think my school resource officer has found out he's a busy person. He's anxious, like probably a bunch of teachers that summer's around the corner to get out. So just something just to bring to your attention. Also on Tuesday, last Tuesday was Well, last week was law enforcement, National Law Enforcement Appreciation Week, and the Optimist Club every year has Respect for Law Day and had a breakfast. And Sergeant DeYoung, who's assigned to the jail, was chosen as Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. And Sergeant DeYoung does a good job. He handles all the transport scheduling and in charge of training, and has saved the county a lot of money, too, with transports. We're hooked up with a shuttle service that, for instance, we're bringing someone back from Texas. And if I had to send 2 deputies to Texas, it would cost us a lot of money with driving time and overtime and spending time in motels and things like that. And we can have a shuttle service. It's a private shuttle service, but it does save us a lot of money on that. Now, another thing was that with the last rain event is that we had trees across roads, and just want to kudos to the county highway because they came out right away and cleared the roads and things like that, got barricades up because we had flooding again. And we put out a warning. I worked with emergency management to get warnings out about no unnecessary travel on county roads, gravel roads and township roads. And some listened, some didn't. We still continue to have issues with going around barricades and those types of things. But also, again, the building that I have that the county has let me use out there flooded again. And it's not just once in a while. Every time we get probably an inch of rain, it floods in there. And I get 6 inches of water in that building, and I got to take stuff out of there. I have evidence in there on pallets from a storage unit out of Volga, and it's $3,000-$4,000 worth of stuff in there. And so that continues to be a problem. And Misty has been really good about giving me space over in her building, but she needs to have her building, and I can't really put evidence in there. And so I would like to maybe visit about exploring the fact, I don't know if we got room out there, because I kind of hinted to Brian, and he didn't really answer me. About building something at the highway shop. When they built the new building out there, I was supposed to get 2 bays out of there, and Dick talked me out of that and says, I'll give you 2 bays out of this other building. Well, now I know why he gave me that building. But anyway, what I'd like to do, though, down there is sometimes we got to rent space. I guess I'd like to explore down in that west end to see if there's with L. Rogers that's got some buildings down there, if I can rent a couple bays down there until we get something figured out. I don't know how much it's going to cost. Maybe you won't, But, at times the county has to rent space. We rented space at the 21 building for years until this building was bought. So we may have to, but I'd just like to explore and see if I can, until we get something set up. So I have an area. If I have small evidence, that can go into my evidence. But when I have vehicles, it's just like on Saturday now, the vehicle that we towed has a bunch of stuff in it, and we haven't decided yet if there might be more to it that we have to write a search warrant or whatever. But Bozade has put it into his building, and he has locked it up, But there's problems with the chain of evidence and those types of things, too. So all I want to do is just maybe explore the fact and come back with some prices, if I can find something down in that end. It's nice to stay close to the highway shop just for the fact that we did 3 changeovers on cars this year. And I have a staff person that can do that. It saves thousands of dollars on changeovers. When Sioux Falls 2.0 radio changes over a new car with the radio equipment, it's anywhere from $3,000 to $4,500 per car for a changeover. And that's when we take the stuff out of the old car. And I have a staff person, Dave Beitler, in the jail, that's some of the things he did when he worked for Perry Electric. He's done all this, and it saved us a lot of money. And Misty has let us use space in the weed department for the changeovers, and that's been great. And we just did our camera changeover, and the company was going to charge us $5,400 to change over 8 cars. And Dave Beitler's did it, so we've saved that $5,400 on that. See, so we've saved a lot of money. So, my ploy with you, because I always have a ploy, is that the money we save on those, might help offset the rent. if we explore that. So it's just something to think about. On June 27th, Bart Sweeby, the jail administrator, and myself are going to meet with 4 other counties with jails in Pierre, along with the Chief Justice, to talk about the tele-psych program that we are going to pilot. Hopefully we'll pilot, where if one of the deputies come across someone dealing with a mental illness event out in the northeast part of the county, is that we can get on our computer, our laptop, or whatever, and have access to a mental health provider that can do an assessment in the field, and through that assessment that may show that we should bring the person in for a further evaluation or whatever. So I'm anxious for that and to listen to how that's going to be funded. I think part of the problem right now is funding. They're looking at ways to fund that it should be no cost to the county on the funding of this. But so I'm anxious to see how that goes. So now the other thing that I handed out, and I know that you like to get things beforehand to go over, but this is my revenue sheet. And with my changeover in my staff, I usually try to come up with a nice booklet for you, for the commission, to go over all my stats. But with budget time coming, I'm just going to give you this so you have something to look at, so that at budget time, when I promote something, you can tell that I'm bringing some money in too. But my budget's $3 million, and we take in $573,000. If I was a business, we would be going broke. But the main one, and actually, Commissioner Pierce got me going on this last week when she asked me on sheriff fees, what I bring in for sheriff fees. And if you just notice up there in 2018, on sheriff fees, now this is the serving of civil process. And part of the sheriff's office, my biggest part of my job by statute is the serving of civil process. Sometimes we get anywhere from 5 to 22 sets of papers a day to serve. And right now, my whole department serves those. I don't have one person designated. Well, I do now, but last year in 2018, the whole department has to serve papers, including myself, my assistant, part-time deputy, and my office staff. A lot of times we can call the people and they'll come into the office to pick up, but not all of them. There's a few that don't want process serving, so we got to go find them. But the office has brought in $96,192, and that's sheriff fees. That's mileage and the cost of serving the paper. When I serve a civil process paper, it's $55 for that service, and that's by state law. It used to be $25, and a few years ago, all the sheriff says it's costing us too much to serve this stuff, and so they did. Legislation did prove that. I do have a deputy now that is in there full time doing civil process. He works at 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And really around that 6 to 8 is when he serves the bulk of his papers. But so this deputy pays for himself and some. Just, in emergencies, he may be called to help the field deputy, but his main job is to serve civil process. Another thing, if you notice, is as you go down, is fingerprinting. Fingerprints, we bring in $11,000 doing fingerprints. I charge $10, which is the norm for most the sheriff's office. Some charge a little more, but I feel $10 is probably plenty. And that's for civilian fingerprints. All the nursing students have to be fingerprinted, sometimes twice, and they come in. And the fingerprint machine is paid by the state of South Dakota, but we have to pay for the line that comes in, and also for the maintenance contract. And the maintenance contract's around $4,000 or $5,000. So that pays for that machine, and with a little bit to put into the general fund. So quickly, I didn't really want to go over this because I didn't take time to do that. It's just something for you guys to look at budget time. So you can tell that there are some things that pay for themselves, because I'm going to ask for, to spend more money. So, anyway, that's my ploy into budget. So if you have any questions.
Commissioner Pierce.
I didn't quite understand the issue, Marty, out at the highway shop. Do you have 2 bays assigned to you now?
Yes, it's what do you call it, Brian? It's the old sign. One half of it's signs, well, all the directional signs when they go out in signage. And Dick put a wall up, so I have 2 bays there. So I had 2 private bays there. But every time it rains, substantially, and it doesn't have to be a lot of rain. There's a drainage issue, and we've been dealing. Probably the highway department and Bob and have been. And I have talked to the city a couple times. They blame the railroad. They're blaming something. Now, last time we had a flooding event was the end of early spring when the snow melted, and the city did come up with a payloader and a backhoe and tried to dig out some culverts and tried to ease some of that. You know, talking with County Highway, Jeff Anderson, he says some of the problem is across Western Avenue to the west. There's a drainage ditch that runs along the railroad tracks, and I don't know if that property is the city or the railroad, because the city wants to blame the railroad, but there's not, for some reason, the water runs through the middle of the highway shop. I get 6 inches or better in my area, and then just west of that area in the parking lot gets a foot. I mean, we had cars flooded, and so we can't park anything to the west. And I don't know if Larry can help me out a little bit on that drainage at all, too.
Well, I just have a couple questions.
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
that. That's okay. So the floor where you're at, is that concrete?
Yes. Well,
And-
right now it's mud. I got about 2 inches of mud, right?
But it is concrete.
It's concrete.
And do we have a sump pump? Do we have anything like that in there to keep water out?
No, just the wall, you know, and I could put sandbags up, but then I'm going to flood his part probably worse. I don't know. I got my evidence up on pallets. What I'm worried about when this case is resolved is there going to be damage to
Right.
the property owner. But
And it just seems to me, and I'm just speaking for myself here, rather than the county paying storage somewhere else, I would like us to try to figure out how to fix that. For one thing, I think storing evidence, when you're talking about vehicles that are evidence, that kind of thing, in private storage, I see some issues for chain of evidence on that. But if we've got a water problem, maybe we need to figure out how to address the water problem as opposed to trying to find a different spot. Just saying.
and I'm not against that at all. So. Anybody else have a thought?
All right, question.
It's been doing that for 30 years. There's a 36-inch pipe that runs diagonally underneath the whole highway lot. There's a drop inlet over by the
Yep.
retirement center, and when you get a huge downpour, that fills up and everything backs up, and it backs up in there until everything finally drains out. There's gonna be a lot of water in between those buildings there. But
Some of the
went
issue
and-
with the
I went
railroad.
and looked at it yesterday, and I know I can see where it needs to be cleaned in order to try to come for some relief off of our lot. But there again, it's on railroad right of way.
And as I understand it, the railroad has an easement on that property, and you have to get permission from the railroad to go in there and remove vegetation, and that's a lengthy process apparently to be able to.
You get railroaded.
Yeah, you get railroaded from the railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that's been an issue with the railroad to gain
Um,
access and clean that property up. So maybe that's something we need to, or maybe I could press on the city to get that cleaned up.
In addressing Marty's concern, I think Misty, myself, and Marty need to sit down and put together a idea. I know I have a few ideas. I know they have a few ideas. I think we just need to come together.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any
And I
other
forgot-
questions?
The last thing, just one thing, is that Commissioner Jensen has talked about, and I agree with him 100%, is the intersection at Aurora and Highway 14, and I do have the state getting involved with that. So I hope to, I've been talking with Brian. Actually, we just talked a little bit yesterday about if we could do any additional signing on the Aurora side, even if we put up a simple sign as a dangerous intersection with a yellow light on that sign, I don't know if that will help, alert the people in Aurora to be a little more careful as they pull out from that intersection. I also was thinking about talking with the mayor about, I've had access before of getting something in with their water bill at Aurora when I want to get something. And I was thinking about maybe putting something up and sending it to all the residents in there just to watch that intersection. And it's cars stop. The issue is not the stop sign, it's pulling out from the stop sign to make sure the turning trucks, the trucks that are turning either from the east or the west, is that the trucks are turning, but they're not watching for straight through traffic. And that's when they're pulling out and getting hit by straight through. Now, I'm not saying that we've had a lot of them accidents, but what we've had one dead die last year from pulling out, and then we had a family that pulled out this school year too. So if we can save someone from getting injured there, so we're going to continue to work on that too. And
Yeah, the same issue on 22nd Avenue North at 14 bypass too. It's a right turning lane and you can't see, people don't look for the pass-through traffic.
On 22nd and the bypass, and that is scheduled for a traffic light. It's my understanding there is going to be a traffic light coming there.
They did go out and I know do some traffic surveys this year, so I haven't heard whether they're approving it or not.
I was under the impression they were, but
The main deal at the Aurora corner there is you get these semis pulling doubles, and it's long. You can't see over it. I mean, there's a vehicle right in behind that semi, and those cars pull up, stop, and they pull out, and there's that car. As I've sat there and seen it. I mean,
and I don't know what the state can do to correct that, other than people being aware to make sure that traffic is cleared before they pull out.
We're all too anxious to get going.
Yep, that's part of it. So, okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yep.
Misty?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm happy to be back. It was a long 6 weeks. Push has come to shove. We have been super busy getting equipment ready, sharing employees with the highway shop, it's fine. If we don't have anything to do at the weed department, the two guys that are half-time highway, half-time weed can go back and forth. And that's what we've been doing. If they need help, they can go over there and help, and then we just adjust times. I just kind of want to give you an update on the Kubota and the pickup and the spray systems that we had budgeted. I know while I was gone, I think a couple claims came through, but the Kubota is paid for. That was, I don't know if you guys want the totals. I'm willing to give them to you, I guess. The Kubota costed $18,200, which is what we had budgeted. The pickup truck, that claim should have went through, was it last pay period, I believe? That costed $28,527. The spray system for the Kubota was $2,976.96. And the truck spray system was a little bit more than we budgeted for. That's because it was a year ago when we got the quote from CNR in Sioux Falls, and we all know things go up and down. And the truck spray system was $7,611.29. We have everything back at the shop, all the spray systems put in. We're ready when the weather will allow us to do our work with the spray systems. So that leaves me with $1,684.75 for what we budgeted for. That's what's left. So honestly, I got to pat myself on the back because I thought I was going over. Otherwise, everything's ready to go at the weed department, equipment-wise. Just want to give you an update on townships. We have 14 townships that have signed up for spraying. 13 of them want only 2,4-D because of the haying restrictions. So I'm waiting on 2 of them for paperwork yet. They're getting that into me this week. 6 of the townships have signed up for spraying. That's going to put us in a bind. We're going to have to go out a couple times to each township. In the past, it's only been 2, maybe 3 townships that wanted us to brush spray in the right-of-ways. But apparently there's more and more out there. So we will, and when we do that, we go out there and we just hit the brush alone with either a hand wand or the boom on the pickup. We won't take the big trucks out for that. I don't know if I told you, but 1 township is having us spray grassland now. 1 township because of the haying restrictions. And then 1 township only spring spray. That's it. Otherwise, there's one other question. I just would like the board's input on using grassland L on the county roads, being there's this haying restriction that's brought up. I know I fought hard to be able to use this chemical, and I want to respect our farmers haying the ditches. I want to respect the pollinators, of course. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are. If you want me to use that on the grassland L on all county roads, or would you like me to just do a trial run?
What I'd like is more information,
Okay,
because I don't have any knowledge or experience that would say, yes, use grassland L or don't use it on our county roads. But I do have a real interest in doing whatever is safest for our pollinators and obviously not interfering with the haying. So I don't know that I can answer that question until you tell us more.
So what's the difference? What's the haying restriction? Grassland L, you cannot hay it?
you can hay it,
Okay.
but if you feed it and you put that manure on your fields, then they're not going to have a crop the next year.
Soybeans won't grow.
That's what they're worried about. And I don't want to take acres, crops, or anything away from anybody. I'm trying to work with them the best of my ability and still do our job.
Would it be best to have some sort of public hearing and invite them to come in and tell them which roads you're going to use grassland L on and let them make a decision whether you, or input, whether they want you to do it or not?
We could do that, or my thought was, if we do use the grassland L on county roads, we advertise it and we also put it on our website in possibly bigger letters than what a general warning would be. Do you understand where I'm coming from there?
Yeah, could you post signs on the roads that you put it on? Ditches, just some sort of a grassland L used here sign?
We could do that. It
Or
wouldn't take that much.
Notify the adjoining property owners who would hay it that we use grassland L.
We could do that. We could start at that mile where we've started and put one maybe in the middle and then one where we finish.
Just so that
So they know that
They know that we've
right
done it.
away was sprayed with grassland L is what you're saying.
right.
I mean,
What are we spraying with now?
2,4-D.
Okay, and what are the disadvantages on the 2,4-D? Why would we want to change from that?
Grassland L's got a carryover. So the next year weeds or the fall weeds, if we're spraying it in the spring, the fall weeds, there wouldn't be as many weeds that come up because the residual.
So what's the downside other than that of the 2,4-D?
There really isn't a downside other than I believe the weeds are immune to it because we've been using it for 40 plus years.
mm-hmm.
Just like our bodies, when we're on a medication, our bodies get immune to it. The weeds are the same way.
I know in the long run, I feel that the grassland L will save us money, but as you can see from the township's participation, they're hesitant to use it because of people doing the haying.
Yes.
And people are more apt to hay the county road right of ways because they're a better road and a better ditch
A lot
to
better.
do the haying on. It's a tough decision what to do. I mean, it's,
What would we do if we did the grassland and we had people not want to hay it, what would we do? And there, would we have to cut it ourselves? Would we leave it? Because it seems like if that's going to be the case, we're going to have farmers say, well, I'm not going to hay that because that's on there. And so then, do we then have to hire people to come and cut
Well-
it? Or does the highway
highway
have,
mows it twice a
we
year.
have to mow it?
Yeah, the highway already mows it, most
Top cut.
generally.
Okay.
I don't know, Brian.
Brian, we have a question for you.
Sorry.
Brian, when you guys mow, do you know if certain farmers mow certain ditches?
Used to.
Well, I know in the past that, and talking with Jeff about this, I guess, and maybe you guys have other thoughts on this, but my policy is if I'm there, I'm mowing it. I can't afford to send my mower back to other areas because they missed by an intersection because it's full of signage. If I'm there, I feel our mowers have to mow it. We're mowing in the spring, obviously, to expose the critters a little sooner, and then obviously by the intersections for safety. So if I'm mowing, I guess in the past, my past experiences, I've tried to work with the landowners, but there again, I'm concerned this year about mowing our road ditches with the amount of moisture we have. I know we're a little ways off from that, but I've seen a lot of damage come out of that. I try to work with them the best I can, but there again, that one pass in the spring definitely exposes the critters quite a bit sooner before the deer or whatever would jump out on the road in front of the car, and then obviously at the intersections. So our policy is going to be if we're mowing or we're on that stretch of road, we're going to mow it.
Okay.
I guess my question was is it going to cost us more? Are we going to have to mow it more times? Is it going to cost our man hours more if we don't have farmers haying our ditches for us? Is that going to make a difference?
Well, it does help. I mean, we don't get down in the ditch and way out there like the farmer would. They're mowing it once a year, but we obviously come back in the fall to knock it down again before the snow flies. But it does help. It's kind of a case by case scenario. With this year with the weather the way it is, if we continue to see a wet spring and a wet summer and a wet fall, I don't want our ditches to be damaged to the point to where it's going to start affecting our drainage either.
Right. I'm with Commissioner Jensen on this. If our farmers and our township people are sending us a message but not using grassland L, I don't think we should use grassland L. I think we should stay with what we're doing. And if we need to do additional research on this between now and next year, we can do that. But I'd like a lot more information before we made a switch that will make some fields, if it's inadvertently put on it, be non-productive for a year or for how long?
I'm sorry, what, for
How long does the carryover last? If a field gets...
a year?
Okay.
No.
Seems to be an educational process both for us and for the farmers that hay the ditch, so to speak. So I would like you to come back with some more information at our next meeting. Obviously, you're probably not ready to spray this stuff in the next 2 weeks. So come back with some more information. Come back with correspondence you have with landowners who traditionally hay the ditches. We probably know which ones traditionally hay and which ones don't.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a good assumption?
Yep.
At least have some contact with them and what their preferences are so we can make an educated decision for you. And I agree, we got to protect the pollinators. We need to protect this carryover issue, but there may be some that say, hey, use grassland L, I don't hay it anyway. Or You probably, your guys that mow, know which ones. And I'm going to guess from your comments that we're not going to spend more money if we use grassland now and they don't hay it. We're still going to mow it twice a year, do it. What we do, we're not going to do it extra. Okay.
The other thing is, this would be a great topic for discussion at the township meeting next spring. And we'd have enough people there to get some input from our citizens to know how they feel about this.
Yeah, well, I don't know when the next township meeting is.
Next March.
Next March.
Yeah, well, that's a little late. So I'm gonna, you're gonna have a little extra work here, you and Brian, to figure out who mows what and when, and who hays and who doesn't, and get a preference point on that, what they're gonna use it for. So if you can come back with that more information, we would be able to help you with the decision.
Sounds good. I just wanted to bring that before you, so you kind of had an idea of what's going on, and we appreciate the Kubota and the pickup and the new spray systems. I think we're piecing together another spray system that was in a pickup to put in a different pickup, because the black one's going to go down the road, and I think eventually go to the maintenance guys. They need a pickup that's on the line. I'm not sure if that's been decided, but it's a thought. So it's nice to have some new equipment and not have to piece together everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill.
Good morning.
Morning.
We did have I forgot to mention it at the last meeting, but we did have a zoning meeting on May 7th, the last time you guys had a county commission meeting. PPCC pod meeting was held on May 9th. We have posted the 2018 pod plan on our www.Be Ready Brookings website. That's a website that my office assists in maintaining. Joint jurisdiction meeting was held on May 14th. A tentative timeline has been brought forward, and I do not have the timeline in the back of my head, although Commissioner Pierce probably does. And they do have an end in sight on the joint jurisdiction ordinance, and we'll just have to hope that it follows the guidelines.
Just so you know, that end in sight is next year.
Well, that's what
Okay, it's not in the next month or two. The actual,
yeah.
by the time we go through all the processes of presenting it to both the city and the county and going through the planning and zoning and the boards on each side, and any revisions and any public hearings, after the joint jurisdiction committee has done its work and presents it forward, it's another 4 or 5 months to get it through the process. So just understand that we worked backwards.
Yes.
And went back this direction and said, we got to get our work done in the next 2 months.
Luke from First District started with the date of looking at trying to get it done by Memorial Day next year. So he started there and worked backwards. So we're
it's a
still
long
about
process.
a year
So
out.
people understand it's not going to happen in the next couple of months. Hopefully, our work as a committee will be wrapped up. Hopefully.
I just hope it gets done before I retire. May 15th, we had a safety committee meeting. There was 10 individuals attended. Preparations on Safety Week will be starting soon. Other topics are making sure new employees know about our safe rooms and our safety procedures in case of severe weather and items like that. Also on May 15th, I was at a tri-state emergency management meeting in Sioux Falls. The meteorologist in charge of Sioux Falls weather station is the chairperson of that one, and he did say it's a colder next 3 months and a wetter next 3 months. So it's not exactly the news I wanted to hear. May 16th, we had an E911 meeting, which I did not attend, and we also had a webinar on the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, IPAWS. They got some new procedures on IPAWS, and they're rolling out a 2.0 on IPAWS. And my office, when the rollout is next month, my office should be prepared to roll with it. May 16th, we had a local emergency planning committee meeting held at Bell Brands USA. That meeting was well attended, and we had a short tour of the facility afterwards. I was on vacation from May 17th to 19th. typically, when I'm gone, we had rainfall from a half an inch in the western part of the county up to 2.86 up near White, as the sheriff also mentioned. And Deputy Director Hagen did a good job filling in for me while I was out. Yesterday, Ray Lynn Maher attended a EM 101 class in Mitchell, South Dakota. EM 101 is the basic class that all initial emergency managers have to take, basically to learn not what reports, but what's expected of people getting the state and local agreement funding. And we sent her there just so she knows when we have her assisting us in the office, me and Richard, so she knows what she's talking about or what we are talking about as she's helping us. We do have a zoning complaint, and part of that, I was invited out to observe activity at the Brookings Gun Club last night, and I went out there and saw some young high school students shooting skeet. Tomorrow morning, and you're all invited, please see Ms. Stephenson after the meeting if you're interested. Brookings County, in conjunction with the Disabled American Veterans, we are participating in carpool karaoke on a local radio station. And the theme is going to be Memorial. We plan to promote Memorial Day ceremonies, which of course is next Monday, and then summer safety. It's got to have that emergency management kick to it. So we're going to promote, have a safe summer. Memorial Day does typically kick off the summer activities, and we felt that was a good time to do it. Kill two birds with one stone. And with my disabled American veteran population being approximately 85 and older, I had to have some young blood to help, so I invited the county to come along. And FEMA is currently in South Dakota spot checking public assistance information that was submitted to the Office of Emergency Management. Brookings County was not selected to be spot checked, which means they don't have to come out here and drive each township road that submitted a claim. Our claims will be submitted with the rest of the state once FEMA is done doing their spot checking. And then sales and use tax rebate, there was a meeting on, this is not in the notes I passed on to you. There was a webinar held on, looks like May 15th. The Governor's Office of Economic Development has got a sales and use tax rebate for livestock development. And basically what happens is a livestock facility, it can be feedlots, hog units, poultry, dairies, aquacultural. They have to be able to qualify for a conditional use permit, and it has to be a new facility. It can't be an existing facility. A new facility would have to qualify for a conditional use permit at the county level, and it would have to be granted the conditional use permit for it to proceed on. What happens is the developer would assign sales and use tax rebates to the county, and this would be on all sales taxes paid on part of the project. It's required by the GEOD, Governor's Office of Economic Development, to get money. It would need a new conditional use permit, and it ranges from $10,000 tax on $450,000 development. Once the project's complete, then the county would get sales and use tax money. Sales and use tax, but not the excise tax. The money that the county would get as part of their rebate and things like that, the county could use it however they would see fit. Whether you want to buy equipment for the generator to power or the courthouse, or if you want to do road repairs on culverts, or let's say the facility, the good highway superintendent mentioned that if the facility's near one of his bridges, it would be an excellent time to put money into his bridges using this type of money, or fix roads. And the same would apply if it's not on a county road. It could very well be used on a township road. So, but it would be up to the county commission on how to do it. And the steps to do it: a developer would have to contact the business development representative at the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Apply to the Board of Economic Development. They would assign the grant to the county. Company would pay the sales and use tax to the state, and then once everything's done, funds would go directly to the county. They pay to the state, and then the state pays us back. Local control, the county still has to approve or deny the local permits. Use of the program does not remove the local control, and still have to follow all rules and regulations at the county level and the state level, which means our findings of facts at our level and then the state laws. All the paperwork is filled out by the developer. It goes to the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and then they assist them in all that. With the county, there's no additional work on county employees. Somewhere it's supposed to be an innovative way to encourage economic development across the state, livestock development only, and in counties only. The Board of Economic Development can deny the program due to finances or with a shady developer, it says here. So, and they meet the second Tuesday of every month. And other than that, there is a website called www.sdready, I presume .gov. Any questions on that?
When, Commissioner Pierce, I'll let you go first.
So when you said a new operation, is that something that we permit in the future, or we have an operation that's just opening now? Is that too late for that one?
It would be too late for that one.
Okay.
It sounds like this has to be on the drawing board stage,
Okay, thank you.
from what I could interpret it.
All right, and then the sales and tax rebate, is it continuous on all sales and use tax developed by the industry, or is it just the construction cost of the facility?
I would venture to say it's just the construction cost on the facility.
Does it say that anywhere in there? What
it
the
does not.
limitations? Is there a limitation of how much they will rebate? Is the entire 4% of sales and use tax?
Yeah, it says they would sign, the developer would assign all the sales and use tax rebate to the county. So
Okay.
whatever the state would normally give a developer to come, instead of the developer getting it, it would go to the county.
Okay, so that's why it didn't take a legislative approval then. It's just moving from one pot to another. All right, so it's on the development costs and not on all sales and use tax that the facility may incur for the future. Okay,
And
that's the
on,
question I had.
okay,
So is that something your office will keep track of? I mean, we only get that kind of conditional use request maybe a couple times a year. Is that you'll keep an eye out for something that might be appropriate to get the,
by all means, if someone comes in, we'd be more than happy to put them in the right. Richard was the one that attended it, and he does most of my
Great.
planning. So when they come in talking about a development like this, Richard would direct them to at least contact the Governor's Office for Economic Development.
and do they make the application or does the county make the
They
application?
make the application. All the paperwork is based on Governor's Office of Economic Development. They work with they've got a team that would work with the developers.
Almost all those developments end up coming here through GOED, so that they won't start with Bob in the first place. It'd start with them.
Every now and then, a local farmer may want to do something, and they would start with me, and then we would
Right.
send them to economic development, I would think. But yeah, you're correct. Most of the big ones that come in from out of state would go through the Governor's Office anyway. That's how they get here.
I was just curious where they were getting the funds from. They're going to move it from one pot to another, and I understand that.
On
It's a good
June-
move, actually.
Excuse me? On June 13th, there's an open house over in Elkton. Bobcat Farms has an open house from 11 to 2 p.m. It's June 13th. If anyone's interested in going from the commission, let me know, and we could schedule your van and take you over there. Being from 11 to 2, I presume you'd have pork sandwiches. And I imagine the commission may get an invitation also, but if not, you're invited through this particular one. And I have been in contact with Sioux Falls Two-Way Radio on May 16th, which was last Thursday, and they have been contacted by Motorola for more information on the radio study that they're doing for us. And according to the people in Sioux Falls, they had a couple questions that they answered, and it shouldn't take them too long to finish the study. But any questions? Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I got something else later, and I'll see you then. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Kristen, I know you're on our agenda later. Besides that topic, any other report for us? 2 things, thank you. Come on up and do those 2 things.
Good morning. Sorry for my tardiness. Two things I want to give you is just April's revenue and expenses for the month, so you guys have that. Revenue for the month was still above our monthly revenue goal, so we were at $6,348.11 for our monthly revenue, still above our yearly goal at 34% for the year. And then our expenses for the month, of course, when you want to look at it, you don't have that number right in front of you. We're $15,684.47, which we did have a couple of large expenses, which were for the advertising during the Summit League tournament, as well as the radio ads we pay for upfront. That goes for all of our summer camps, information, our Sunday, free range Sunday, which actually is this coming Sunday as well for us. So we just have that information. And then just to give you an update, we are coordinating with GFP and 4-H Extension to hopefully shut down the facility only once. It looks like August, the second week of August. And what we're hoping to do is clean all of the rubber out of the range again. We have somebody coming in to check our depth. But from when the facility opened till when it was removed in 2017, we had approximately 8,000 people on the range. And since then till now, we've had 4,400 is the number I got this morning. And so we've had, quite a bit of usage. And with that 4,400, we've actually had like National Guard, who they put thousands of rounds through. And since we have all of that new rubber that we're waiting to install into the range, we want to make sure that we're not putting new rubber on top of old lead. And so with coordinating that, we still need to get carpets cleaned and the floors, of course, polished. So we're looking at just shutting down for a 5-day period, like hopefully Monday through Friday, and just getting all of that done all at once. So I'll update you guys as we kind of know more of that information. But that's kind of the game plan at this point. You look like you have a question.
I just did, that's busy time for 4-H in August. Is that going to
Nope,
coordinate with
it's
them?
after all of the presentations, it's after fair, it's after the collection dates. There is one thing that Sonia thinks there might be, but she's pretty sure she can get that done on a Sunday. So if we do that second week, then all of that would not coincide with anything. Yep. Any other questions? Thank you. Oh,
I have a question on a different issue, though, than that. Can I ask?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So I was out at the ice cream social last night, which was a nice event, but I had a couple of people ask me what's going on with the parking lot, and I couldn't remember where we're at on the parking lot out there.
I'll defer that to Commissioner Jensen.
Jackie Lang with the city, they're going to do their soil borings out there. They have not completed those yet. Once she gets those done, then she'll bring forward plans to do for the parking lot. Jackie did say that they had some bids last week that came in on some other parking lots within the city, and they came in really good pricing, so under budget. So we're hoping by probably August or something we'd have something ready to do out there.
So we are thinking the parking lot will be done this year.
We're hoping, yep.
And it would be wonderful to coordinate an August timeframe with the August closing of the facility and just look at 4 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Vicki. Save the best for last, right? Okay.
To give you an update, Kristen and I went out to the spring workshop last Tuesday and Wednesday in Pierre, and that was good. We had a lot of good sessions. We are going to have a new Motor V program that is going to be implemented right now. They're thinking January. That might move back, but it will be sometime in 2020. So we had updates on that, and I am going to be sending 6 people out of the 8 of us to training in both Watertown and Sioux Falls now in June, so that I'll have a travel request coming up for that next meeting. And they did talk also about the self-service terminal again, And the latest update we have on that is they're going to try putting it in the driver's licensing station, which they're not open 24 hours. They're not open Mondays. They're just there from 7 to 5:30 if I've got the times correct. But that is where the state is looking to put it. So it's kind of out of our control. We came up with all different kinds of ideas and gave them ideas, and they have not really liked any of ours. So it is their terminal, so that is what they're looking at. And it wouldn't be till towards the end of the year, because right now they don't have any self-service terminals on hand. The one that they were going to bring here, they're using elsewhere now. So they are looking at probably putting 5 more across the state. So that is the update on that. And to kind of give you an idea with, it's in your report, but for the month of April, we collected $20.5 million in taxes. And it wasn't a motor vehicle month, but we still had over $530,000 collected in motor V money, and $1.5 million in just miscellaneous money. So a very busy month. We were one person short because we had somebody out with medical leave. And so I just have to thank the staff. They did awesome with all that. So busy month. We got all the delinquent tax notices out in May. So we're continuing on being busy. One thing too that we're seeing is everything is going more towards technology, like you all know, but doing a lot more online and with credit cards. And which is fine, you know, that works good. The only glitch we're having with the credit cards is the ones that they can go online and do the check. It costs $1.50, and there's quite a few that, you know, each time that increases. But we're having a glitch with, they put in the routing number and it says it goes through, and then a day or two later we get it back saying that the routing number they put in was incorrect. So I talked to the credit card company. They had a booth out at the workshop, and so we're working with them to get it fixed. If we can't get it fixed, we are maybe even looking at doing a different vendor, which I'll keep you updated, because I hate to take that away. But the way it is now, you know, we've paid the taxes and everything, and then we find out that it's not went through. So it's been, you know, with that many transactions, it's been kind of a bad glitch. So I'll keep you updated on that too. And we are moving forward with the budget. Everybody's got their budgets in, and so Stacy and I will be meeting, and we'll have everything ready for you for the budget hearings on the 11th. And then any questions on the report that I gave you on our finance officer's report?
Any questions?
And we have the 4 be it noted items, the auditor's account with the treasurer, the payroll and additives total, the highway expenditure report, and the register of deeds statement of fees collected. And then also we have the second quarter general fund transfers. And we have a general fund transfer to road and bridge fund in the amount of $750,000. And we also have the emergency management fund from general fund to emergency management fund in the amount of $21,250. So if we can get action from the board to move that money, we will do that.
Does that complete your report?
Yes.
You ready for this?
Yes.
All right, stay there because there might be questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's go down to item I here. A, General Fund 101-4-911-4294 to Highway Road and Bridge Fund 201-3-371-0000 in the amount of $750,000. There a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions to Vicki on this particular transfer? Hearing none. Call the roll. Is the transfer recall, is that recall?
It's okay though.
Krogman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma, Bartley,
Aye.
motion carries.
It's transferring money. I like a roll call. Item B is from General Fund 101-4-911-4290 to Emergency Management Fund 226-371-0000 in the amount of $21,250. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any questions or comments? None for Vicky. Thank you. We'll call the roll.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention too is the general fund surplus analysis. We were at 42.32%, which is right on target for where we have been before. We were a little slow or, a little behind last month, but with all the taxes and everything, it's right where we should be. So,
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7, regular business. Under that, A, action to approve agreement number 19-30, an easement agreement for the use of county road right-of-way made by Old Tree Farms / Freedover Palin. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments or any questions for Brian, who had to leave? Hearing no questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Action carries. Item B is an action to authorize Brookings County Outdoor Adventure Center Director Kristen Heismeyer to sign agreement number 19-31, a joint powers agreement supporting a City of Brookings, Dakota Nature Park seasonal education position in South Dakota. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions for Kristen? Or any presentation you'd like to make, Kristen?
So this was the agreement that we discussed last time. I talked with Dan, and instead of rewording the joint powers agreement, which then would have to go back to the state Game Fish and Parks and to the city, we reviewed our current waiver that we have our employees and our guests sign at the OAC, and Dan believes that is completely sufficient to fill in any gaps that this joint powers agreement may have had and fulfill your concerns.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma, Krogman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
motion carries.
Item C is an action to approve the malt beverage license renewals for the following businesses. Want me to read them all? Probably should, huh? It's a malt and beverage license cover, I guess. Documents, K&K Enterprises Incorporated doing business as the Corner Gas and Goodies. Cusband's LLC doing business as the Boathouse. Meadow Creek Golf Club. Brookings Country Club Incorporated. Skyview Junction LLC. Wagon Wheel Resort LLC. Beach Bums Incorporated doing business as Danceland Campground. I believe that's all of them.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments or questions on any of these licenses? From the sheriff, I think we've, no issues. Okay.
Dan.
And I just have a question. In the application, it was for K&K Enterprises, that, all the rest of them had that box checked that said we didn't need the public hearing. That one didn't have a check there. Was there a reason for that? I wondered if there was a violation since that box wasn't checked on theirs.
That might have just got missed, but no, there's no violation, so they wouldn't need a public hearing.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Licenses are approved. Item D is an action to approve a funding request made by the Elkton Special Days Committee of $500 for the annual fireworks display. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any questions about that? We've done this in the past, haven't we?
Yeah,
It's kind of an annual.
we've given 500 since 2013, and then before that, it was a different dollar amount. But prior to that, we've been doing this for a number of years for them.
All right. Any other questions? Call the roll.
Boersma, Krogman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
motion carries.
Item E is an action to authorize the Finance Office to advertise for a supplemental budget hearing for the E91 budget for $32,000. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any explanation or comments?
I don't understand what happened here.
So this is the amount that the county budgets to basically transfer over to E911 to the city for the dispatch center. What they do is they submit a voucher to us for payment, and in 2018 they submitted the voucher but with an incorrect dollar amount. So we paid the amount that was on the voucher. It wasn't the amount that was actually budgeted for. We were short the $32,000. So now they've come back and they found that in their accounting for this year, they found that we did not, that there was that mistake, that error that was made. So now they're asking for that $32,000. We did budget for it last year. But that amount is fine and we're okay with that. But now that we've moved into our new fiscal year, we have to do a supplemental budget hearing in order to have the funds in that account to transfer over to the city.
When we do the supplemental budget request to have that 32,000 moved, where do those funds come out of? Do they come out of cash on hand or
Yes, they'll come out of fund balance, yes.
Okay.
Because that 32,000 was left in the budget at year end
Right.
in 18 and it rolled into fund balance. And so that's where we just come out of cash on hand.
So it won't come out of current budget, it'll come out of the cash on hand
Right.
from last year.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item F is a review of our subdivision ordinance. We have those in front of us, the 2007 revised subdivision ordinances. Mr. Hill?
Good morning again.
Morning.
This particular subdivision ordinance was a revision of our 1976. We did this one in 2007. And we'll just go right down to the next page. Table, basically we reformatted it and reused modern terms that we didn't know about in 1976. And that's the articles in it. Next slide. The first article basically tells you what the enforcement and variances, interpretation, conflict and separability, and the effective date. The next page talks about the application process. What one person, the main thing we use this ordinance for is for our plat approvals. And this one dictates what it takes to do that. And one of the main things is if it's 2 lots or less, we can waive the preliminary plat approval and just hear a plat same day in the zoning meeting. The term subdivision ordinance, a lot of times people think, well, you're talking about putting subdivisions out in the county. And to an extent that would be correct, but the zoning ordinance takes precedence over the subdivision ordinance. So what would happen is, if you want to build a subdivision anywhere in Brookings County, such as in the agricultural zone, that's fine. Your lots are going to be 35 acres large. And where we do have smaller lots, of course, is the lake park. And the last time we fully used everything inside the subdivision ordinance was Country Club Estates down at Lake Campbell. And that's right there off the Country Club Road, and it's not the one up on the hill. It's the one right off the road that right next to the Country Club. That's the last time that we used the subdivision ordinances. We used the preliminary plat and the final plat approval just about every meeting. Article 3 talks about things such as what size of roads are we looking for, dead-end streets, street grades, and there we work with other groups such as the highway superintendent. We want, typically if you're going to come in and do a subdivision anywhere, you're going to have an engineering firm involved with you because there's a lot of things involved in it, and that's also in the ordinance. It states that the planning commission can require an engineer to be involved. But things such as the streets and how they come out onto a main street, we don't want, a good example would be the one not controlled by us, but controlled by the city of White, up by just north of White, going up towards the Wind Tower Farms. There's one entrance onto the county road, or two entrances, I guess, but each house does not have their own entrance onto a road. Things like that is controlled by the subdivision ordinance. How wide we want the roads. We want to require that they have, be able to put fire trucks in there for fire defense and things like that. And you've ever heard the term city block, or a city block versus a country block? We designate what the block is so people don't, I've grown up, people used to say a New York City block versus a normal block, and there are different. You can define blocks different ways, and we took the typical engineering definition for a block and put down, similar to what the city of Brookings used. Easements, we have utilities easements in here, and on the lots themselves. And then Article 4 talks about once again, some of the stuff, property markers, revisions to the preliminary plan, sidewalks. That is one that is up to the planning commission if they require sidewalks or not. Obviously, I don't believe we required sidewalks. I believe we put into the conditional use down there on the one at the Country Club Estates that they did not require sidewalks, if I'm not mistaken. But then curb and gutter, and then street signs. Believe it or not, Brookings County only did these blue 911 signs since I've started back in 2003. Probably 2004 is when we even started that. And there was a lot of roads did not have street signs. So this type of ordinance requires the street signs. Article 5 is no more than definitions. And then Article 6 is our final plat certification. And on this one, the first question is going to come out and say, well, you haven't updated this since 2007. And since then, we don't, and if you notice up there, we got county treasurer, and we don't have a county treasurer anymore. We got a finance officer. That's absolutely correct. We fully understand that. We have changed the times when state law has changed, required certain things to be done on a final plat. We have changed it, and we've been able to get by, at least in my mind, because it says suggested forms for final plat certification. And next, when it comes to the questions, we are planning on, you can go to the next. As soon as our main zoning ordinance is updated, this is the next one on the thing. We want to put the definitions in. Our new zoning ordinance has got a lot of definitions that we didn't use back when we did our zoning ordinances, such as lots. Some of the lot definitions, especially on a corner lot, has changed. We want to add all those definitions into the subdivision ordinance, along with the updated language. Any questions? That was short, sweet, and
Any questions? Commissioner Pierce?
I'm not familiar with the development that's north of White. Is that in city limits?
yes.
So are there any subdivisions that are in Brookings County that are not in Lake Park or within a municipality,
There
other
are,
than what are in the joint jurisdiction area for the city of Brookings?
yes, ma'am. There's one outside of Volga
Okay.
that was permitted in 1974, I believe.
Okay.
And our zoning ordinance took effect in 1976.
Okay.
What happened is there was a flurry of development just prior to us adopting. There's one north of town. There's a trailer park north on Old 77. Then if you go a mile or two farther north, Sterling Loop they call it, there's a subdivision. And then farther up on the intersection of South Dakota 30, there's another subdivision. All of those was platted before before the zoning ordinance took effect. And of course, Sunnyview is a development from the 1950s. And those are all considered subdivisions.
So there's not been anything since the zoning ordinance was adopted in 76.
Correct.
And so the only reason we're using these as basically Lake Park, like you said earlier before.
Lake Park, and then for the plats. This gives me authority to get the information I need on plats.
Right, and that would be an existing building site, being able to split or do whatever, so.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Did that satisfy, the request? Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8 is our Commission Department Director's Report.
My report was included in your packet. The first thing is a bunch of kind of a timeline for our RFP for construction manager at risk. The RFP was posted on the 9th of May. So some upcoming dates. This Thursday, May 23rd at 1:30 is the RFP pre-proposal meeting, and that is going to be over at the sheriff's office. Marty must have stepped out, but I believe he has a conference room down in the basement, so I'm guessing that's maybe where that will be, but I can get that information out to you. But it is over at the sheriff's office. And then a week from then, on the 30th, any questions are due by 4 o'clock. And then the 6th of June, which is another Thursday at 4, that's when they are due back to my office. So that's when we'll get all of the documentation in from them. BKV does, I think, tentatively plan to be here on June 18th at the commission meeting that day to just give an update on where things are during the commission meeting. But if you noted on my report, I have June 18th highlighted because that's going to be the day that we're going to, you as a commissioner is going to review the RFPs. So looking for, I guess, first some direction from the board. Do you want to try to put that exec session? I don't know what the agenda looks like. We're a little bit too far out yet for that. Do you want to try to start that exec session right after the meeting? Do you want to come back in the afternoon? I don't know. However, how long it takes is going to depend on how many RFPs we have for you folks to review. So what are your thoughts on that? I just want something so you know to put this on your calendar. If we want to start right after the meeting, I think we can, and then if we need additional time, we can reconvene after lunch or do a working lunch and work through it and get through them. But that's on the 18th of June.
Again, we're not going to know how many we're going to have, but I think we should plan on doing it right after our meeting, maybe keeping the meeting a little bit short if we can, and push things down if we can to the next meeting. But at the same time, I'd like to just continue to work through it, working lunch, until we're finished with it.
Okay,
That's my proposal.
I agree.
You have your consensus, I think.
Okay. And then, so after that, then we will notify kind of the short list of candidates on the Thursday, the 20th. And then we have the CMAR candidate interviews, and that is on Tuesday, July 9th. Now, that's not a commission meeting date, so I guess I'm, again, looking for board direction as to when you want to start that. I don't know how many there will be. I think we wanted to kind of limit it to 3 to 5. So we could do something, schedule things in the morning and maybe run into the afternoon a little bit. I guess I'm looking for availability of the board on Tuesday, July 9th for that.
Is it possible on that one, just for us to mark it on our calendars that we're going to be doing that, and wait till we get a little closer so we know how many before we decide when we're going to start and when we're going to end, and how long we need for each one?
Yeah, I guess mostly I wanted to make sure that you had that date on your calendar.
Because we'll know after Thursday, right?
We will know, not after this Thursday, no. We will know after June 6th how many proposals are submitted. And then for sure after the 18th, we'll know how many interviews we'll have in June.
Just a question, are those executive session, those interviews, since it's
Yes.
contractual, so I know when we did this building, we did those reviews, we allowed 1 hour per applicant to make their presentation and ask questions. Is that still adequate, do you think? Do you want to make it shorter?
Not shorter.
I wouldn't suggest going shorter,
1 hour you think is adequate?
typically.
I know that's how we scheduled them then, was 1 hour in between those. So if we schedule that way, we'll know exactly how long it's going to take us.
So do you want to just plan starting that morning?
Start at 9?
Start at 9 o'clock?
We can
Or do
it
you
8.
want to meet prior to that at 8:30 and kind of go through kind of go through the process, I guess, and then have the first one scheduled for 9 o'clock?
So nobody can apply who doesn't come to the meeting on Thursday, right?
Correct. The pre-proposal meeting this Thursday is mandatory.
So we'll know after Thursday the maximum number we could have.
Correct.
And then we could maybe decide some of that. But right now, I hate to crunch everybody together if we'd have a little bit more time. And if people are coming from further away, maybe 9 o'clock in the morning isn't the best time for the interview. I just think we maybe should wait till after Thursday to set that up. But
How about if we agree on the date?
the date, I agree on June 9th.
Okay.
Yes.
I do
It's
too.
just what time we start. We don't have to decide that yet.
No,
Okay.
June what?
9th.
July 9th.
Or
July
July
9th.
9th.
Tuesday, July
July
9th. July.
I see it.
Okay. So just make sure that that date is marked on your calendar, and then we will decide on a schedule after we know more about the candidates. And then just I had some other, a little bit further out, just some other items. We're scheduled to approve our CMAR on Tuesday, July 23rd at that commission meeting. That's at a routine meeting. And then just kind of out through the rest of the summer and into September. So.
On Thursday of this week, when we do our pre-proposal meeting, who is, chairing isn't the right word for that, but who is coordinating that and doing introductions and getting everything organized and all of that kind of thing? Who's handling that?
BKV, Bruce with BKV, they will be here and they will conduct that meeting.
Okay.
It's not an official commission meeting,
Right.
but it is, but yeah, BKV will conduct that meeting.
I just want to be sure we've got somebody in charge, and so that's who it'll be. Okay.
Any other questions on that schedule? The other thing also, there was some information in my packet on the county's employee assistance program, or the EAP. We do pay about $3,800 annually for this program. It's been in place since 2012. I didn't know if there was any other questions that anybody had on that.
I have a question. The statistics that they gave at the end of the information you provided us, are those statistics for Brookings County, or are those the statistics for their EAP program statewide? What,
Brookings County.
these are our Brookings County statistics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And we do provide some information. You'll see the EAP often quoted in our newsletter each month, and then we try to make employees aware of that at the time that they're hired, and department heads have that information too. So, and then there was also some information that Commissioner Pearson asked me to reach out to BEDC Director Al Houghton to get some population information, and that was also included with my report. I don't know. I didn't hear this. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to discuss there on that, or is that more just kind of for your information? Just okay. And then the last thing I have are just some of your upcoming dates. Tomorrow is the 10-county meeting, and I believe 4 out of the 5 of you are planning to go. It does start at noon down at Mad Mary's Steakhouse down in Flandreau. I believe the Traverse is available, so if you want to, and if anyone wants to drive together and take that. I guess that's a conversation you need to drive, okay? Larry or Mike?
What's your tea time? You? What's your tea time? Okay.
So I will let that, I guess you guys can work that out amongst yourselves. And if you want to take the Traverse, just get a hold of, call Linda down at the highway shop, and if that's available, you can sure take that. And then, as I mentioned, the RFP pre-proposal meeting is Thursday at 1:30. County offices will be closed on Monday. It is already the Memorial Day weekend coming up, believe it or not. The weather, you wouldn't believe it with the weather we've been having, but it is. And then a couple things with the Mental Health Task Force presentation, which has been on, I hope you all have that on your calendar, June 4th. That's a commission day, but that afternoon at 3:30, we'll be having a joint meeting with the City Council, the County Commission, and the Brookings School Board. You folks will actually be the audience, and the Mental Health Task Force will be giving their presentation that afternoon here in this room. And then budget hearings, and between the last meeting and now, budget hearings, we're condensing them down to just one day, the 11th. The only department that we had scheduled for the 12th was 4-H Extension. She's actually going to come on June 4th. Sonia is going to come and present her budget on June 4th, just as part of that regular meeting that day. But we also discussed starting at 8:30, but then if we need to kind of run past 5 o'clock, we will do that day. So we'll hopefully get everything done. After that meeting, it's going to take, with any discussion items or things that need to be changed, Vicki and I will need to get together to make those changes and clean up that budget document that we work on. So then we'll probably be looking at maybe that first meeting in July, where we'll kind of informally present that. It's not the provisional budget at that time. It's just kind of just a follow-up to make sure everybody's comfortable with where we're at, and then move forward with that. The provisional budget will get approved right after the Tuesday after Labor Day. It's always that first Tuesday in September, and then the annual budget at the end of September. So, but budgets were due, I know, last Friday, so hopefully those have all been turned in. So, and then Bob had mentioned during his report too that the Bobcat Farms open house, that's not until June 13th from 11 to 2 over at Elkton. I have that information. Thank you, Commissioner Pierce, because a lot of times, if you ever get stuff like this that comes directly to you, just quick forward it to me, because there are a lot of times that I don't receive it. And so it's nice to be able to to get the information, to put it on your public notices, to share it with all of you in case someone didn't get it too. So, but that's coming up, and I'll have that on on our next June agenda. That will be in time for that. I think that's all I have, unless anyone has any other questions for me.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go in Commissioner reports and discussion items. We did have some correspondence received, the DNR. What's good? Oh, that's right. We should probably do the state's attorney's report. I just wanted to get into you guys real quick, but Dan.
You skipping me again, Chair?
I was going to skip you again.
Just briefly, our probably most significant felony prosecution will be one step closer to resolving itself later this afternoon. Aaron Aspen was charged with distributing meth to a minor, which is a Class 2 felony, 25 years maximum, and then doing so within 1,000 feet of Maderi Elementary, which is a drug-free zone. He's pleading guilty to both counts, and the way the law is he's looking at a mandatory minimum of 10 years in the penitentiary. This was only possible because of agencies like the Brookings County Sheriff's Office, Brookings Police Department, Division of Criminal Investigation, as well as other law enforcement agencies that were involved in this investigation. Given the facts that we know, the juvenile who was buying the meth from Mr. Aspen was then taking that meth and distributing it to other teenagers here in the Brookings community. So we put together a pretty aggressive prosecution. We were actually anticipating having to proceed to a jury trial this week, but working with his defense counsel, we've reached an agreement, and so he's going to be entering those guilty pleas later this afternoon. Keloland is going to be here later this afternoon, as well as the local media. Chief Erickson and I are going to give a press briefing outside of the state's attorney's office at approximately 5 p.m. So if you see media individuals scurrying around the county government building, you know they're headed upstairs. So it's a good win for local law enforcement, and hopefully the judge will follow through on the mandatory minimums, and justice will be served. So.
Anything else? Any questions for Dan? Hearing none, we'll move on to commissioner reports. We did have some correspondence document from Hilltop Dairy. Any questions on that document? Hearing none, we'll start with Commissioner Pearson reports.
On May 14th, as Mr. Hill said, we had a joint jurisdiction meeting. We approved the schedule. Did you get a copy of that, Stacy? Were you forwarded a copy? Okay.
Yes.
So we've got a plan in mind, and hopefully the subcommittee will have its work done by the end of the summer. We spent that meeting talking about the concentrated animal feeding operations in the joint jurisdiction area, and it'll be the recommendation of the subcommittee that we have no Class A or Class B. And I can't remember what we decided on C, Bob. Are we going to have Class C? I can't remember.
Only, I believe, if they're still existing now. But
If they're existing now. So some of those, the recommendation will be to tighten some of the rules on that. And we are talking about our definition of a feedlot and how many animals that encompasses. So you'll be seeing all that come through eventually. The next meeting we have, we're going to talk about residential rural. And that's part of the reason we looked at the subdivision ordinance today. The city really is opposed to any subdivisions in the joint jurisdiction area. Our ordinance, as you can see, really, except for in Lake Park, you aren't going to have any subdivision development in the ag area. And that's a conversation that I know some of the commission's interested in having, is where are we going to house people if we're saying you can't build homes anywhere? So that'll be coming up. Eventually, everybody will have to state what their opinion is on that and where you want to go with it. On May 16th, I attended the Public Affairs Committee. There were a lot of people there. I think we might have had 20 people. It was the biggest turnout we've had in a long time. That group is in the process of doing a little reorganization stuff. It was the first time Kelsey, who is chairing those meetings now, attended. And we looked at our mission statement, and we're looking at a format for our meetings going forward. And I wanted to thank Dan for coming, because that's the state's attorney's always on that committee, has been for the 4.5 years I've been on that committee as the liaison from this commission. And that was the first time we've had somebody from the state's attorney's office participate. So thank you. And then last night I attended the 4-H ice cream social out at the BCOAC. Like I said before, there were some questions asked about the parking lot. Other than that, it was a really nice event. It seemed like there were a lot of people there, and there were just a ton of kids running around eating ice cream. That was great. That's all. Oh, one more thing. And I went to a meeting on the 20th Street interchange, and Secretary Berquist has told us that the interchange is going to go on the state STIP list. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Commissioner Boersma.
Monday, May 13th was the Mental Health Task Force meeting, and so we're prepping our final report for the June joint meeting with City Council, County Commission, and School Board. Wednesday the 15th, we had an ICAP board meeting, and that was a strategic planning session as ICAP reevaluates kind of the funding sources that they have and where we can strategically leverage those funding sources as things kind of constrict in the land of government subsidy and funding. So trying to identify which programs are highest priority and who might be able to deliver certain programming elements perhaps better than ICAP can. Friday the 17th, we had a East Central Behavioral Health rebrand meeting. I think I mentioned in a previous report that they're going through an entire renaming, rebranding effort. And so we're making great progress on moving that forward. And then last night was the board meeting where we sort of discussed where we're at in that process and several other items as we move forward towards some pretty significant changes in transitions this summer. That will be more information on that forthcoming as the decisions are made.
Thank you. Commissioner Krogman.
Yeah, I had a light couple weeks here, so I wasn't able to make the beta meeting. They had to change that meeting, and it conflicted with another meeting that I had, so I wasn't able to make that one. But I was at the BCOAC meeting yesterday, and we approved a preliminary budget that we are submitting to Vicki that we will see coming forward. And then just talked about staffing and different things like that with the part-time help and getting people there and getting them their 19 hours and the difficulties we're running into that. So anyway, it was another good meeting. We were a little bit longer, which was good. We needed to do that with the budget, but we're optimistic that the incomes will continue to rise, and you'll see our budget at the end there that we're getting closer. So expenses will hopefully remain the same as income increases. So we'll see how that goes, but cautiously optimistic, put it that way. So that's all I had.
Commissioner Jensen.
On the 16th, had an E911 meeting, and later in the day, I had a Weed and Pest, our budget meeting there also. I was very thankful that 4 individuals showed up. It was a day that wasn't raining. These individuals come out of the field and come in for a meeting for our budget meeting. I'm glad they showed up, I guess. Along with Ryan, we had our OAC advisory board meeting yesterday. And like I said, we're optimistic on numbers. Preliminary numbers on attendance are surpassing last year. So our budget process was a little bit, we've got a full year in there, but we don't have like a 3-year average to go on, so it's a little challenging, but we're getting there. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Since I wasn't here for the last meeting, I go way back here. I'll just kind of rattle them off here quickly. April 25th was the joint jurisdiction meeting, and I'm sure you covered that at the last one. 26th was the Elkton's Fireman dinner, along with Commissioner Borsman and Commissioner Jensen attended that. And the 29th was the D91 meeting. The 30th was a BDC retreat. Commissioner Pierce and I attended that. A lot of good information there. I'm sure you reported on that, and some of it's come from Mal today, and survey we completed online afterwards. It was beneficial to everybody, I think, that was there. And then also on the 30th was the Brookings Firemen's annual appreciation feed. May 2nd, they attended an insurance review meeting. On the 6th, the jail tour, which I'm sure you've all reported on. Excellent tour. I learned a lot of things about what we're doing there and how it looks, and it makes a difference to actually look at a site and look at some of those requests for the jail cells being the pods, so to speak. So it was interesting. On the 14th, joint jurisdiction again. Again, as has been noted, we have got a schedule we're going to try and stick to get this completed next year by this time. I hope we explain that it's a lengthy process once we get the proposed ordinance together just to get it approved and through the public hearing process. On the 16th, also attended the 2019 E91 budget meeting. We got through that, and I think it was a successful looking budget with some changes. And that would complete my report. Are there any other reports? Any other comments? Hearing none. Next item is the executive session. In accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2 for contract negotiations. There a motion to move into executive session?
So move.
Second.
Motion been made. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We will take a 5-minute recess and be in executive session.